Well, South Africa's headline inflation rate has dipped for the third consecutive month, falling to its lowest reading since December 2004. It's been dragged lower mainly by falling fuel prices. Data from Statistics South Africa shows inflation edging to, listen to it, 2.1% in May. That's from 3% in April. Xolani Mbanjwa is our business editor, and he's about to remind you that the Reserve Bank's target rate for inflation is between 3 and 6%. I mean, 2004 is not that long ago. I'm quite elderly, but that's a low figure.
That is a very, very low figure, and it's not too far from what the Reserve Bank said earlier on this year, when it said that the average for the end of the year will be 3%. Now, remember that our target range is between 3 and 6%. Inflation targeting has been a hot potato for many number of years. So this is an interesting part, and you know, for that particular month of May, you know, we're looking now for June and what it's going to be, and we expect it to actually average out. I spoke to a number of economists who are actually saying that this is what they actually expect for the rest of the year. But it's quite interesting that inflation is that low. It's actually happening around the world because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But now we look ahead to the Reserve Bank, you know, a monetary policy committee meeting next week on interest rates. This year alone, we've received 275 basis point cut, and you know, I asked people who know these things. When it comes to inflation, there's going to be a lot that the MPC puts into this decision. Whether we are still going to cut a bit further, you know, to get the lowest interest rates that we've had in a very, very long time, it still remains to be seen next week. But this is quite an important figure and data, economic data that came out today. But I spoke to Azam Hlanga, the chief economist at Alexander Forbes, and it was quite interesting what he said about what his expectations are in terms of the rest of the year. He expects a 75 basis point cut for the cumulative next 6 months. But take a listen to what he expects, and puts his neck on the block in terms of MPC next week.
This upcoming meeting, potentially, I would not be surprised to see a 25 basis point or even a 50 basis point cut, because it does provide relief for those debt-constrained consumers, which would obviously translate into some transfers within their households. So that is an important relief measure which the SAB can and should do, and I think it's quite possible.
I'm sure if Ayabonga Tawe was here, he would explain to me, hopefully in very small words, the reason that inflation is so low is because there's no demand. No one's got money to spend. And if I remember one of the classical definitions of inflation, and there's several of them, it's that inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. Yes. No one has too much money.
No one has too much money. And when we talk to economists and who are looking at this, like Ayabonga Tawe, Azaya and others, they're actually saying that because the inflation rate is below the target band, we actually can expect that there should be, you know, consumers should expect a 25 basis point cut or a 50 basis point cut, because you need to actually now encourage consumers to start spending that money and actually spur some economic growth. So it's quite important that looking ahead, this is what economists are saying, but 2.1% lowest in 16 years, it's really, yeah, it's we've never been here, you know, in a long time, and this is a pandemic. So what we do from here on out is quite critical in terms of ensuring that both the fiscus is actually, you know, stable, and the consumers actually get some reprieve.
The Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni, in Parliament, I say in Parliament here, I think he was actually at home, we were with him a few moments ago. He looked cold, frankly. This is about the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. I call it the emergency budget. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but Parliament was debating it. How did it go?
So we expected that you know, opposition political parties are going to say, listen, this is not good. We didn't see enough being budgeted for. You know, GBV, we didn't see enough budgeted for municipalities. municipalities. So there was a lot of flack that went towards the Minister of Finance with that supplementary budget, particularly when it came to municipalities. A lot of this division of revenue, a lot of the cuts were taken from municipalities. And remember that President Cyril Ramaphosa promised 20 billion rands as a COVID response to municipalities to support them. But they are saying that we don't see it in this supplementary budget. We don't see it in this an amended bill in the division of a revenue bill. We don't see it. What we've seen is actually 12 billion rands, and money is actually going towards corruption and all of that. So this was the debate that would actually lead to the vote that is currently has to take place this afternoon. It's quite an important one because a lot of people are actually skeptical about this particular budget.